Go Jump in the Pool by Korman. Only 25 G's? Time to get up, announced Boots. A lump under the blue blanket stirred slightly. It's the middle of the night, it mumbled plaintively. It's 20 to 9. You know how Mr. Stratton freaks out when someone is late for math class. Bruno Walton's dark, tousled head appeared from under the covers. You know I never get up before 1:45, so don't disturb me. I'm going back to sleep. The head disappeared again. 5 minutes and 40 winks later, Bruno bounded out of bed and tore through the room like a whirlwind. Within 5 minutes, the two boys were headed toward their first class, Bruno hopping on one foot as he tied the other shoe. At a secluded table in the lunchroom sat 6 boys. Along with Bruno and Boots from Dormitory 3 were Mark Davies, editor of the school newspaper, and eccentrically brilliant Elmer Drimsdale, both from Dormitory 2. Dormitory 1 was represented by Chris Talbot, a talented art student, and Wilbur Hackenschlemmer, an amateur weightlifter and a whiz at woodworking and metal shop. Bruno, seated at the head of the table, had obviously appointed himself chairman of the committee. He cleared his throat. I suppose you're wondering why I've called you all here today, he began impressively. Nobody answered. All right, I'll tell you, he said, and frankly, I don't see how any of you can even swallow your lunch. I'm hungry, protested Wilmer Hackenschlemmer, his mouth full of meatloaf. Bruno pounded the table so hard that one of Wilbur's baked potatoes rolled off his tray and onto the floor. The big boy scrambled to retrieve it. How can you think of food at a time like this? Bruno hollered. This is the darkest hour in the history of MacDonald Hall. Our world is crumbling around us. You'll have to excuse my friend, interrupted Boots before Bruno could go into detail about the tragedy that had overtaken them. He gets very emotional sometimes. What he's trying to say is that York Academy has a pool and we don't. Right, said Bruno, but there's more to it than that. We stand to lose valuable students. Him, for one, he pointed at Boots, if the athletic department here doesn't start to move. Mark Davies nodded. Pete Anderson's dad has been talking about taking him out of school. Pete Anderson's dad has been talking about taking him out of the hall. You see, exclaimed Bruno triumphantly. We need that pool, and to get it, we need $25,000, and here's how we're going to raise it. We're going to rob a bank, suggested Chris Talbot. I've been telling him it can't be done, agreed Boots. $25,000. Fine bunch you turned out to be, said Bruno in disgust. If you're content to lose our swim meets and our students to York Academy and to have them looking down their noses at us, then go ahead. I'll get somebody else to help. Well, when you put it that way, said Mark, I guess I'll help you do whatever it is you're going to do, even if it can't be done. Me too, put in Elmer. Same here, said Chris. At the end of the table, Wilbur Hackenschlemmer was attacking a huge piece of lemon meringue pie. I'm in, he mumbled. I'll do anything you want just as long as I don't get arrested, expelled, or starved. Bruno beamed. Good. Wait for me in your rooms after class. I'll come around with your assignments. One by one, the boys finished their lunches. One by one, the boys finished their lunches and left the dining room until only Bruno and Boots remained at the table. Have you got a plan? Asked Boots. Or were you just bluffing? Certainly I have a plan. I just wanted to talk it over with you first. We're going to have a rummage sale on Saturday. Did the fish give you permission? It's possible that he would if he knew about it. As it happens, he doesn't, but I'm sure he won't mind when he finds out it's for the pool. What's my job? Asked Boots. You and I are in charge of Dormitory 3, said Bruno. You're also vice president of the fundraising committee. We have to dig up saleable goods from our dorm and from scrimmages. The girls will be able to give us tons of stuff. I'll take Sturgeon's. Mrs. Sturgeon is always glad to help out. We've got classes to think about, Boots reminded him. Well, we won't let that interfere, Bruno replied. Boots shrugged. You're the boss. We better get cracking. Bruno glanced with an appraiser's eye over Mark Davies' room. Take that lamp, for instance, he said. It isn't doing anything over there. He unplugged the small lamp and placed it in a vacant corner of the room. We'll sell it. How can you sell that? Protested Mark. It belongs to the school. Well, Bruno replied, the money that we'll get for it goes to the school. Mark nodded reluctantly at the undeniable logic. Now let's see what else you've got. While Mark stood open-mouthed, Bruno began going through drawers. There, you never used that pocket knife. He tossed it into the corner with the lamp. And that stuffed bear? Now really. When Bruno had finished ransacking the room, in the corner with the lamp, the knife, and the bear were a nutcracker, a poster of Phil Esposito, a pair of nearly new gym shorts, a paperweight in the shape of a carrot, and an assortment of old comic books. Now that's how it's done, he said. You're going to go to every kid in this dorm with an even-numbered room and get all his stuff. Mark scratched his head. Gee, I don't know, Bruno. Pool, interrupted Bruno. All right, I'll try. Elm, I'm relying heavily on you, said Bruno, glancing around the room, which at one time he had shared with Elmer. What have you got for the rummage sale? My junior science books, Elmer suggested hopefully. Well, all right, agreed Bruno without too much enthusiasm. What else? Elmer thought hard, closing his owl-like eyes behind his large glasses. I have some pamphlets on West Coast fisheries, he offered. Elmer, you're killing me, Bruno groaned. Haven't you got anything that an ordinary human being would be interested in? I could sell some of my goldfish, Elmer said meekly. Bruno thought it over. Elmer, you're a genius. Get jars from the kitchen for them. What else? Miniature ant colonies, said Elmer, his spirits on the rise. I could use jars for them, too. Tremendous, Bruno approved. You get onto that right away and start scrounging from all the odd-numbered rooms in this dorm. We've got 4 days for the sale. We've got 4 days to the sale. I will, Elmer promised. You won't be sorry you picked me. We're having a rummage sale on Saturday, Bruno informed Chris Talbot. I'll need a poster for each dorm, 4 for the highway, and 1 for scrimmages. Chris, very cool and businesslike, wrote the order down. Anything else? As a matter of fact, there is. You're in charge of gathering stuff from the sale from the odd-numbered rooms in this dorm. Wilbur will take the evens. You have a lot of art to do, so you'd better get help. Will do, said Chris. What if nobody wants to give me anything for the sale? Asked Wilbur Hackenschlemmer timidly. Bruno looked the big boy up and down. I wouldn't refuse you, he said. Convince them. Also, you're so great at industrial arts that Mr. Lautrec is crazy about you. Get all last year's projects that are good enough to sell. The more we sell, the more we make. Well, I'll try, said Wilbur uncertainly. Boots, shouted Bruno. Boots, open the door. Well, I can't exactly, called Boots' voice from inside room 306. There's too much stuff. We'll have to get out of the habit of using the door till after the sale. I'll open the window for you. Bruno went around the outside of the gray stone building and hoisted himself up through the open window. The sight that met his eyes amazed him. In little more than an hour, Boots had managed to collect enough odds and ends to satisfy a junk dealer's dream. There were chairs, stools, and small tables, books and framed pictures, battered luggage, an assortment of jackknives, fishing lures, and other great treasures. A collection of the canned and packaged treats each boy had brought from home topped the pile. Wow, said Bruno admiringly. You really don't want to be a turkey. If all the guys do as well as this, we'll have the money in no time. Aren't you getting a little carried away? Asked Boots. I mean, who's going to give you 25 G's for this junk? You'll see, promised Bruno. I guess I'd better go through my stuff and see what I have to offer. Oh, said Boots airily, I did that already. You what? Subject to your approval, of course, Boots compromised hastily. He pointed to a pile of objects standing on an old chair. That's all yours. Bruno sat down and began to go through his things. How can I give away my track shoes? He cried in protest. I bet you didn't give away your track shoes and my lucky penny. He held up a large, ugly, imitation silver four-leaf clover with a penny stuck in the center. It's my good luck piece. Do you want me to die? Bruno, lots of guys are giving up things they like, so the sale can be a success. The least you can do is give up your lousy penny for the cause. Don't you want a pool? Oh, all right, Bruno growled. What's next? Boots asked. Mrs. Sturgeon's? No, I'm saving her for the last, to cut down on the chances of the fish hearing about it. Tonight, after lights out, we go to scrimmages. A few minutes after midnight, the window of room 306 silently slid open, and two shadowy figures jumped to the ground. Bruno Walton and Boots O'Neill were on the move. They stole across the deserted campus, dashed across the road, and clambered over the wrought iron fence which surrounded Miss Scrimmage's finishing school for young ladies. Bruno picked up a handful of gravel and threw it at a second-floor window. There was a scrambling sound and high-pitched giggling, then two heads, one fair, one dark, appeared at the window. Bruno and Boots shinnied up the drain pipe and were helped across the sill and into the room. "Hi there," blonde Diane Grant greeted them. "What's new? We haven't seen much of you lately." "We've been busy," Bruno exclaimed. "He's been busy," Boots amended, "and he's got the whole school in an uproar this time." "Oh, good," exclaimed dark-haired Kathy Burton. "Can we get in on it?" "As a matter of fact, that's a good idea," said Bruno, as though it had never occurred to him before. "We're trying to raise a little money." "Fair enough," said Kathy. "How much?" 25,000. Kathy pointed to the window. "Out!" "No, wait a minute," soothed Bruno. "Listen to the story. We're losing all our swim meets to York Academy, and we'll keep on losing them until we have a pool of our own. So we're having a rummage sale on Saturday to raise the money. We need things to sell. You girls should be able to dig up all sorts of neat stuff. We also need you to talk it up," added Boots, "so the girls will come over and be customers." "Sounds like fun," agreed Kathy. "We'll do it." "Be greedy," Bruno advised. "We need lots of things. We're going to have posters on the highway, so we're expecting plenty of customers. Don't forget, Saturday, starting at noon. We'll be over Friday night to pick up the stuff." "Should we tell Mrs. Scrimmage?" asked Diane. "Not yet," said Bruno. "We don't want the fish to know he's having a rummage sale until it's already in progress." Boots swung a leg over the window ledge. "Happy hunting!" The two boys slid down and made their way home through the night. And that's the end of chapter 2.